Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 29. In this episode, I speak with my good friend, Ryan Larsen. Ryan's an actor I met here in Los Angeles through the Playhouse West community, and ever since I met him, we just really clicked. He's a really cool guy, really hard worker, very passionate about the craft of acting, but also passionate about a lot of other things in life. And aside from art, him and I always end up talking life, philosophy, fitness and nutrition, which we're both into. He's just a really cool guy, and I was really happy he came on and we had a great conversation. The book of the episode, and this actually came up in conversation during this episode, is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Everyone knows him for his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a great one, but this is one I came across. This is a gem, because a majority of the things that we worry about never even happen. And he gives some very good examples and techniques on how to handle worry in your life, and really what the book says, how to stop worrying and start living. And again, that's by Dale Carnegie. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Ryan.
Ryan Larsen, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Thanks for coming on, man. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah. I've been watching and I'm like, man, when's Sam going to ask me?
Yeah.
So,
no, trust me. You've been on the list. Several have been on the list, but I'm guilty of too. Like whenever I run into people, hey man, come on the podcast. Yeah, come on the podcast. And I'm like, oh man, I got like 10 people I just told to come on the podcast. So
totally, yeah.
But we're here now, and it's great to see you. I love the Vizes salt lamp in the background. I see.
Yeah, guys, salt lamp. I know, dude. We're salt lamping, bro. Got to get those negative ions in the air. So in mine, I have I bought like a higher wattage light for it, because you actually want to heat the salt up, and that's what causes it to release the negative ions. So by having like a higher wattage light bulb in the lamp, it gets hotter and you get more ions. I mean, in theory, but it also looks better because it's hella bright back there.
So and this is great. This is awesome. We're already diving right into it because you're the science guy. You're I love talking sports and nutrition and fitness and those types of things with you. So what exactly is that doing, the ions?
It's like an like, honestly, you just pumped me up to be this huge. So it's like an antioxidant, I guess.
Like, that was funny.
I used to know, but then you start filling your brain with like other stuff, and like I guess that was one of those like needless bits of info. It's like an antioxidant, I guess. It's just like good to breathe in negative ions because they mess with the positive ions, and those are the bad ones from like all the electrical stuff in the room that releases positive ions, electricity, things that might not be good. I don't know if you're like a 5G believer or whatever, but I wouldn't say I am. I'm kind of curious about why we have to have 5G, and but I'm not like one of those, oh my God, we're all going to get cancer and die kind of guys. I'm just a skeptic, dude. I feel like both of us are very skeptical, and we don't just like believe what we're told. We want more information. We want to like see anecdotal data. We want to see like real life experience with this. And, just the fact that the 5G isn't tested or like anything like that, is kind of like, okay, well, what does it do? I guess. And I guess the salt lamp is to help me with that.
And it just looks cool.
And it just looks sweet. I mean, it's mainly for just how sweet it looks.
Well, in transitioning with that, I mean, health and fitness is one thing we definitely want to talk to you about with this, because that's a majority of a lot of you and I's conversations is, they don't promote health whatsoever, especially during the pandemic and stuff. They don't promote anything about taking care of yourself, any vitamins you should take, and even before then, though, America is just such a unhealthy society. And, stuff like, we've had these talks like, look, if you want to be vegan, be vegan. I've done vegan. It's cool for some people, nothing against it, but telling people that eating meat's going to kill you is just, in my opinion, is simply a lie. Like, it's simply a lie. And I actually think the opposite. I'm like, no, it's actually really, really good for you, or to certain people it can be.
We're hunter-gatherers. Like if you are a vegan, there's chance that you are lacking certain vital nutrients that, you would get from meat. Zinc, a lot of different minerals that you can get from liver and stuff. It's a superfood. Liver is a superfood. And yeah, nothing against vegans, but if you are a vegan, you should definitely get blood work and you should find out what is going on, because you might be lacking something. I'm not a vegan and I get blood work just to figure it out. We're hunter-gatherers, It's all about eating healthy for me and making sure you're eating organic as much as possible, just because it's held to a higher standard. And a lot of the food in America is just processed and not good. And, if it's organic, then chances are it's minimally processed and it's going to have more nutrients. And some people make the argument that, organic produce and conventional produce have the same amount. It's like nominal amount of nutrient differentiation between an organic apple and a conventional apple. But my argument is, from having an environmental science, degree, is that the pesticides destroy the groundwater. The dioxins are everywhere. It destroys the groundwater. It's terrible for the environment. So organic is sprayed with pesticides that are approved by, the USDA and the CDFA, California Department of Farm and Agriculture, and it has to be in certain parts per million, like a certain amount has to be used, and they can't just fully spray. And a lot of this conventional stuff is banned. And GMOs are just gross to me. So
you just blew my mind early in this podcast. Do you have an environmental science degree?
Yeah.
Dude, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But now it all makes sense. I'm like, holy shit, this guy, no wonder he's knows science stuff.
Yeah. No, I did take organic chem.
This is amazing already. This is
calculus, all the fun stuff. When I certified, so no.
So have you always just been into science and figuring out how stuff works? Because you're from Seattle, right? That's
Well, Seattle, no one, not a lot of people are actually from Seattle. It's just not a lot of people know Washington. Mm-hmm. And so I just say Seattle because that's the most well-known city, but I'm actually from a smaller city that's very close to Seattle, 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, called Bellevue. But potato, yeah, it's but yeah, no. So I had a teacher, I took environmental science in high school, and I had a teacher that inspired me, and put it in perspective for me of how important it is to take care of the world and sustainability, and, making sure we have a clean planet and a healthy planet for our children and for their children's children and so on. So that's honestly why I'm an actor too, is kind of combining two passions that I have. Art, I've always acting has always been something that I've been drawn to since I was a child, very young. And then environmental, just the environment as well. And, both are if I get, I don't know, if I'm famous, I can talk about how fucked everything is, I guess. Yeah. Is what I'm trying to say. And that way, and the impact I would make as an actor with a voice is much higher than the impact I'd make as just like an environmental science, removing invasive species from an ecosystem, or repairing a riparian area, or writing environmental impact statements for construction projects, and things like this. Like, you know, it's cool, the money's good, kind of, but like I could definitely change the world a bit more by pursuing something I'm super passionate about, and then making it happen, and then telling, you know, people like about my passion.
What's the one cause, like if you had to pick one of the causes for the environment, or something you believe in, what would it be with a platform?
Like
like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, I believe climate change, isn't that his big thing? Like,
yeah. I mean,
and you know, you made me think of him because that's literally all he puts out. Is that
on his Instagram.
And he's huge. So I get exactly what you're talking about. So is there like a specific thing, like the ocean, the rainforest, like anything in particular?
I mean, climate change is massive. It is massive, and probably one of the scarier things is the all the glaciers melting, polar ice cap disappearing, and what it's doing is it's desalinating the ocean. It's making the ocean less salty because you're getting all this fresh water melting into the ocean, and the salt creates different temperatures and things, and that creates the currents, and that creates our weather. So by shutting down these basically conveyor belts of currents, we're going to see some gnarly weather. And we're already seeing that. We're seeing tornadoes, hurricanes, droughts, a lot of fires because of the droughts. So it's climate change is huge. Probably, the one that's most pressing and like in our face. I guess agricultural practices too are really bad. Monoculture is just growing fields of corn and soy and all these things, and not diversifying your crops are really bad too for the environment. The bees.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Bees are dying because of glyphosate. So, I mean, it's kind of scary to talk about these things, to be honest with you, because like.
Well, that's crazy. You're telling me the salt in the ocean is what's affecting all this?
I mean,
it contributes to it.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, I never heard it like that. Like I never heard it explained that way.
Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah.
So it's called like the Great Conveyor Belts. I'm pretty sure it is like the scientific term, I guess. It's like a conveyor belt, and there's multiple. They're in the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and they bring a lot of the weather. These like currents that just like bring our weather, and if they shut down, then I don't even know if we should go into it, but it's bad.
How much time? Our lifetime?
I think maybe, I mean, I like to be optimistic about this, that the scientists kind of say like 10 years, 20 years. The window is rapidly shutting. Let's just put it that way. We need to get away from fossil fuels as soon as possible. Like within the next 10 years, and hopefully that happens. Because with the hole in the ozone, that was very detrimental for many reasons, and it was the chlorofluorocarbons that were basically ruining the O3 molecule, which is like 3 oxygen molecules that are just like bound together that make our ozone. And it was basically that the CFCs in like aerosols, like a lot of refrigerants and things like that, were ripping the ozone apart, and it was creating a hole above Australia. That's why melanoma is so prevalent there, skin cancer. And you're getting screened for it every year almost. And that's almost pretty much completely repaired itself. So the planet is very good at repairing itself and balancing itself out and, you know, fixing these problems, where we just have to put her in the right place and in a good position to kind of make these fixes, these amendments to our, you know, like our, we contribute to it. Dramatic.
I believe George Carlin said it in one of his bits. He said, you know, the planet's not going to go. We're going to go. He's like, the planet will be fine in the long run, like you said. Even if it gets to a certain point and we get wiped, it will eventually do its thing, like you just said. I mean, it's getting hit by comets and shit like that. It's like, unless it gets blown up by the Death Star.
Or the moon, like, breaks apart and ruins everything or something. I don't know. Maybe that's why, like, what happened to Mars. Mars had a moon, and the moon was destroyed, and
whoa.
Yeah, and then it just ruined all the tides of the ocean and the atmosphere, and I don't know.
Because they really think, like, Mars used to have a bunch of stuff on it, right? Like water and...
Yeah, I mean, the Mars rovers, like, found all this crazy stuff. Like, the mountain on Mars is, like, Olympus Mons or something. Mm-hmm. That, like, mountain is wild to me. Like, I don't know. What's it called? It's, like, called Olympus Mons. It's the biggest mountain in the solar system.
Bigger than anything on Earth.
Oh, massive. Like, it's like the size of Arizona.
What?
Maybe. Like, just like the top of it. I don't know. Like, no, like, that is, like, pulled out of my butt. But it's huge. It's massive. It is super cool mountain. It's a Mauka. I like Maukas, so yeah.
You've seen the movie Mission to Mars, right?
Yes. I enjoy all Martian movies.
Yeah, man, you got me thinking in a different, like, no pun intended, a different space right now. It's like it is insane. Like, when you really start to, there's this podcast on Tim Ferriss. I mentioned it on here once before, but it's episode 555. And Tim basically reads this book from a book called 4,000 Weeks. Basically, like, every human will live an average of 4,000 weeks, comes out to, like, you know, late 70s, 80 years on Earth, whatever. And he read this chapter called Cosmic Insignificance. And it really, I mean, I can't say it's inspiring, it's morbid, but it's that idea of, like, look, your lifetime is, like, not even that, like, not even a snap of, like, this universe and this world and what's come before you and what's going to come after you. It's like you're just a quick flick of a speck and gone.
Nothing.
Because he even made the point, like, people like someone like a Steve Jobs, or he goes, yeah, they might be remembered for hundreds of years, but eventually they'll all be forgotten too. And the groups of thousands of years. And then it just, I don't know. It's like, it just motivates you to enjoy your life right now.
Yeah, for sure. The names will be lost, and it'll just be like it'll be very generational, you know, like, from this time period to this time period, these humans live like this. And it's like history that we learn now about, like, you know, BC stuff and AD stuff. And, like, you don't, like, there are names that we know, you know, like Julius Caesar and Jesus Christ and, you know, all these different names. But for the most part, it's like kind of like a very broad, like, what it meant to be living in these time periods. But yeah, no, insignificant, totally. We are insignificant. I mean, I love those pictures that just show, like, what the Earth looks like from different spots in the galaxy. And it's just like, it really is just like this little tiny dot, this little blip. This is where all these wars are, and, like, all this famine and love and hate and peace. It all happens right there. And it's just like, it's wild. I mean, dude, life is crazy. Like
It's crazy.
everything, like it's crazy, dude. Like we're just sitting here on our laptops talking, you know, like where we're at is it's wild. Everything's wild. I mean,
I feel like everything in my life has led me to this moment right now, having this exact conversation with you. Because it's like, we don't take pause, right? Like not too many people take pause to be like, hey, like what the hell's going on here? It's because you go into this society, and shout out to Chris Lieby, who you know from Playhouse West. Like I'll never forget what Chris said, man, about, he was referencing like what art was. He's like, look, no one asked to be here. You're just born here. And you come into this thing that is telling you how to live in society and rules and this, that, and the other. And he basically said from when you're born and between you die, in between in what you make of art, that's your interpretation of what life is. Because no one really knows. Who knows? Like, we all think we know how it goes, but do we?
Dude, I'm going to spend my whole life trying to figure it out, you know, because like I'm super like, I like, what is the meaning to all of this? And I refuse to believe that it is meaningless. There is a meaning to everyone brings meaning to this existence. It's just a matter of whether or not you find it. And I mean, it's important to just spend your life searching for it and like, you know, not settling. And, you know, that's what gives me excitement. It's what gets me out of bed is like, all right, like let's make these things happen, you know, let's get after this day. And I mean, obviously I have bad days and I have good days. But I guess you just have to be like grateful that like we can even, you know, wake up and do all the things that we do throughout the day. And I mean, you just went through like a traumatic leg injury, and you know, a lot of those things were ripped from you. Yeah. And so, yeah, no, I bet you're just super grateful to do it. Like, you know, back to exercising, man, like I bet that feels nice, dude.
It's, yeah, like you just hit it on the head. We take so for granted so many things, and even during my situation, as low as it was, I still held on to that gratitude that it could have been way worse. And there's other people in a way worse position, and it's like, man, like it really just gave me perspective. And like, look, and as you come out of it and you get stronger, it is amazing how even though you have this perspective and experience, the rat race comes back and it starts again taking your mind and blinding you to bullshit. And it's like, but the power I have now is like, wait a minute, like I'll stop at what I'm like worrying about. I go, that's nothing. What am I worrying about that for? Because within a split sec, you can be dead or really hurt and messed up.
Yeah. And
at any given time, doesn't matter who you are.
And like humans are very good at just like worrying about situations that are never even going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, like I find myself worrying about things that like will probably not happen that way. And that's pretty much how it goes. Like I can like think back and like, you know, to times when I like certain scenarios and events where I was super anxious and worried about outcomes that just never even happened. And it's just like so important to live in the moment and now prepare yourself for, you know, those events and what potentially could happen. But that's way out there. And, you know, you need to worry about right here. And you got to constantly remind yourself that, because I still find myself anxious about things like, oh, am I going to be able to pay my rent this month? Like, and it's like, look, just take it day by day, have faith. As long as you're actively like trying to pay your rent, chances are that like money will find you.
You know, you may have just chosen the book of the episode. I was going to go with Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights, because of the whole acting thing, but I think you may have gotten something deeper, which is a great book, by the way.
Yeah.
How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. There's one, like, sometimes when you read a book, like you like read through it, like, did I get any? There's one key thing I got out of this one in particular, in exercise. He's like, whatever it is you're worrying about, actually write out and think out, pretend that it actually happens. What happens? And what you say, to add on to what you said, I'm not saying that some things that if they happen, they are tragedies and whatnot, but most of them, even when they happen, they really aren't that bad. Your mind just makes it think it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Like, for example, like, I don't have my rent. And that day comes and you don't have your rent. The world's not going to explode. The sun's not going to crash into you. All right, let me talk to my landlord and see if he'll give me a few extra days. And then next thing you know, then a few days you end up getting the rent. You see what I mean? Like, it's like, he's like, and it actually, like, whenever you're thinking those things, like, actually talk out, well, if it did happen, what would I do? And then you come up with solutions, and then it takes away some of the stress of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I love
you
that.
Reminded me of that. That's why.
I definitely try to do more of that now. Like, all right, like plan A, plan B, plan C, you know? And like, all right, like, best case scenario, worst case scenario, I'm living in a box in like this patch of land between the 101 and the busway and in the valley. You know, I found a little.
You won't be the only one.
I feel like every actor, like a lot of actors, like scope out areas of LA where they would be like, oh yeah, like I could live there, I guess. Like, if I had to, like, this would be a nice little tree that I could nestle near, just because, like, nothing is, you know, it's a rough profession, but I love it. It's amazing. It's, you know.
What's it like right now as an actor here in LA? Because you're active in it right now and auditioning and doing stuff like that. What's the scene like?
Well, so I took the holidays off. So I haven't auditioned in, maybe a couple months, which is also nice because it is good to kind of step away, replenish all your emotional reservoirs, I like to call it, because a lot of it can dry you out as an actor. So I'm super full right now. Like, I'm ready to go. I just started applying to jobs today. I mean, it's mostly like I utilize Actors Access and Backstage. I find the most luck with those two platforms, and I just submit to jobs, you know. And a lot of it's in person, or not in person, excuse me, self-tape. And I had a couple in-person auditions, like, you know, in the summer and early fall, which were amazing. I love in-person auditions. I've definitely warmed way more up to self-taping. Self-taping is cool. Now it's wild because, like, I got pretty far in the casting process on a couple of projects and did chemistry reads. And man, it's over Zoom. Like, you're chemistry reading over Zoom. And it's like not fun because, like, how do you know if I have chemistry over this screen? And like, I mean, there is like a baseline level of chemistry. Like, you can kind of see, like, yeah, like, all right, cool. You know, like, for playing lovers, like, you actually look cute, and like another girl's like not really your cup of tea or whatever. So like, you might be more engaged. Like, there is like a level of chemistry that you can get over Zoom and on the computer. It's just not ideal. And it was nice, you know, getting to do those chemistry reads and like just get experience doing that. But I wish it was experience doing it in person, because that's probably where everything's going to go back to, especially for a chemistry read. But I definitely feel like I'm more prepared for them. And yeah, no, that's the hardest thing. And I was talking with Holly about it, and they had like some argument on this like casting director for actors page on Facebook, and like it was like, hey guy, like, hey, what do you think about acting classes online? And you know, a bunch of people chimed in, and there's like arguments going, like one coach or actor was like, yeah, no, they're great, like you can learn, like you can learn just as much online as in person. And it's like, oh my god, dude, no you cannot, period. No, this is like the worst profession to try and do it over a computer. Like, yes, you can get a baseline, like you are getting a workout, but the ceiling is low. The ceiling is very, very low. You will reach that ceiling in a month, 2 months. Like you will get what you're going to get out of that online class very fast, and you won't go further than that because you can't. Because it's so much different having a conversation face to face than it is over this laptop. I mean, it takes you out of the reality. It's like, you know, it's just like, yeah, you got to really act. You don't want to be acting. You want to be living, you know? You do not want to be acting. You want to just be living in the imaginary circumstances. You want to, and yeah, so the ceiling's low. Ceiling's low.
So I have one quick thing. Go back to you. You said it's actually called the chemistry read.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, no, that's a thing.
It's an actual thing, and that's mainly for like romantic type roles and stuff like that, or anything.
Anything, you know.
Just to see if the two actors click.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that makes perfect sense though, that they would have that.
Yeah, no, I've done a few chemistry reads now in my time in LA. And you know, a lot of them were in person before the pandemic, and now it's just like they're weird. Like you just like sit in the Zoom room, and then different girls, like they have like 5 girls come in and like read with you, or whatever the role is, 5 guys, 5 non-binary or whatever, like come read with you. And yeah, it's weird. and then like, so basically they're just like finding pairs that work together, and then they're matching it up. They're showing the producer, they're showing, usually the director is there in the chemistry read. And you know, they're just seeing who works well together, who, you know, like if you're supposed to be brother and sister, which one of them was, it's like who looks related and has the chemistry, and you know, these things like that. So that's kind of like what they are. It's just kind of like putting the 2 people on screen. It's like it's a little bit of like a screen testy kind of deal. Yeah, it's further, like you do like you do your initial audition, then you do a callback, and you might do another callback, and then you do chemistry read, and then they, you know, from the chemistry read, they might get it down to like the 2 men and women that they want, and then, you know, it gets cast. It's all different, and different projects are different. You might only be 2 auditions. There's no chemistry read. Bigger network stuff will have like maybe even like, you know, a chemistry read and then a couple of screen tests and like all kind, like, you know, a fitting, and where you're wearing, like if you're Superman, you have to like wear the costume and do the dialogue and some action. I don't like, it's all kind of different for what the project requires, but you know, it's good getting experience with that regardless.
Well, it reminds me too, again, another shout out to Chris Lieby. I think he said in the class one time, like your actual audition that you do, like maybe that initial time's like 17% of it. Whereas this, like a chemistry read, for example, maybe the guy and the girl both crush their audition, like both amazing. But what if when they get to the chemistry read, there's no chemistry, and maybe this guy or girl who wasn't as strong as one of the others, but they bring that other one in and they're just chemistry's off the charts. That's obviously going to make for better film as long as they're a pretty decent actor as well. So
yeah.
Can you talk maybe a little bit about, because I know, you're one of those people, like when people ask me about LA and acting, I'm like, you know, was dabbling and heading that way. Obviously, pandemic happened. I got hurt, things like that. But then I see people such as yourself and several other people that we know that go hard at this. And I try to explain to people, like, oh, you don't need to take it. They're like, oh, you don't need to take acting classes, or you don't need to do this. I'm like, yes, you do. And I try to tell them, like, man, I know people, and this is just my network. There's a whole city of these people out here, like, that should be on the big screen. Like, they're that good. I've seen their work face to face. Like, they're that good. But well, how come I haven't seen any of these people in, big movies and like that? Because there's such a business side to this. I know you've given me some insight. So could you maybe just talk about, like, how much is involved in being an actor in Los Angeles aside from the actual acting part?
Wow. I mean, there's all these gatekeepers, and that's why you're not going to see all, when one of my least favorite questions when I tell someone I'm an actor is like, oh, what have I seen you in? And it's like, well, not much, because I'm non-union, and all the stuff you watch is most likely a union project, and I can't get in the union unless I have a union. So there's catch-22. It's like, you can't be in the union without doing union work, and you can't do union work without being in the union. And, that's prevalent in multiple facets of acting, all these catch-22s. You can't get guest star credits without a guest star credit, and you can't get a guest star credit without a guest star credit, or it's wild. I would say a lot of stuff that, like, goes into it is just, like, staying, like, in your heart, what you have to do to get where you want to be. Like, in your heart. Like, I know, like, I have, like, all of these things listed here that I know if I do these things, like, I will break to another level of my career. But the hardest thing about being an actor is the things that I know I have to do in my heart require time. And I have to trade my time right now for currency to pay my bills so I can even stay alive out here. So, like, I lose a lot of time trying to just feed myself and stay alive. And so I don't have all of the time that I'd like to spend doing all of the stuff that I'm pointing at right now that's on my, like, to-do list over here. And that is, the tragedy of being an artist is, like, we could be so much better at our craft if we had more time to spend on it. That's why, like, a lot of the super famous artists had financiers. Like, I'm pretty sure Michelangelo's brother was super rich and bought all his paint and, made sure he was cool. And, and a lot of the actors that you do see on TV had, like, a parent in the industry. And, they were well off, and they had connections that they could just pass on. So it's definitely hard, just, like, being unrelated to the industry at all, and, like, coming in and just, like, grinding your way to the top. I don't really like using the word grinding, because it's, by definition, it's like breaking things down and, like, pulverizing and breaking things down into smaller pieces. You're just thriving to the top, I guess, is a better use of word, because I definitely do believe, like, you have to be careful with the way you talk about things. The energy you put out with your words and your thoughts and your attitude is super important, especially as an actor, because it's easy to, like, get bitter and plant the bitter tree that turns into a bitter forest. So you got to just be stoked. Like, I personally, as an actor, I'm just happy to audition. Like, I'm stoked. Every time I get an audition, I'm super excited. Now, that excitement wanes when I actually, like, read the sides because sometimes like it's a story that I personally don't really want to tell. And that's the thing, it's like we're storytellers. And that's one of the hardest things at this point in my acting career. Is like in the past, I would have just done every single audition and been like stoked to do it. But now I'm kind of burnt out on that because like a lot of those auditions that I was doing, like they didn't really speak to me as an artist, as an actor. So now I'm a bit more picky, I guess. I still like, if I think that if I haven't auditioned in a while, or I think that I would get something from an audition, even though it's like a story I don't really want to tell, or poor writing, I still think it's important to put yourself on tape, go through the motions of making definitive choices in the sides, dissecting the story, figuring out what's happening, where you are, and who you're talking to, your opinions, like that is all like a muscle that you're working. So it's good to just put those muscles into use, even though it's like a story or sides or whatever that you might not be like super stoked on. So definitely find myself, just wanting to go through the motions of auditioning and just getting better at it, more definitive at it with, sides that I don't really care about. And that's also empowering too. It's like, I don't care about this at all. So like, I find myself making stronger choices and like getting callbacks from that. So it's like, now it's like, well, I actually don't care about anything. Like don't care. Like now I'm at a very like powerful point in my acting career where I actually don't care.
You remind me, I think Pacino said it. He said, even back when he was in New York doing all his auditions out there, he said, you have to go to the audition expecting not to get it. Like you have to leave it being like, all right, probably didn't get it, and just clear it out of your mind.
Clear it out. Sometimes like I used to like tell friends and family about like auditions, and like especially if they're on like bigger projects. But now I try not to, just because like they'll be like, oh, you probably got it. And they're like, oh, yeah. And it kind of gets you like, a little excited, and then you don't get it. And then that's a letdown. So, and also they bring it back up. They're like, my dad, like a week later, so have you heard back from that? I'm like, no, Dad, no, I haven't. I probably won't. So, but, and definitely like, one of the biggest things as an actor is you got to find wins, you got to find wins everywhere. Whether like they're just like you getting asked to submit an audition on a project, or seeing the same casting director's name turn up in your inbox on Actors Access multiple times, getting a callback, doing a chemistry read. Those are all wins. And they should put more wind in your sail to keep you going further. And you got to just like find your wins, man. Whether it's in acting class, whether you've had a breakthrough with like, something that you're getting hung up on, an emotional mark you couldn't hit, or a conceptual understanding of text, or like how to do a certain technique, and you kind of like have a click moment, light bulb moment. That's a win. So there's all these wins that you really have to focus on, because there's a lot of L's, man. Taking a ton of L's in this, but I like the L's. Like I like the dubs. I like the L's. I like auditioning. One of the things that's I guess frustrating is, I try not to think about it too much, but with self-tapes is, you spend hours. I spend hours learning the dialogue and making the choices and calling a friend to come over and take time out of their day and drive across LA and trash traffic and help me with this self-tape, to read with me. And you spend all this money and time doing it, because, you know, like I might have to like buy my friend lunch, or they had to spend gas money to get to me, you know, whatever. And, you know, you do it and the casting director might not even watch it. They might not even watch it. Like they might watch 15 seconds and be like, yep, nope, or whatever. So I'm definitely trying to do everything in my power to make my self-tapes as watchable as possible, so they're not just watching 15 seconds. They might be watching more. But still, it's up in the air. And that's why I like in-person auditions, because like I can go in and like I know I have an audience. Like I know you're going to watch me and you're going to see the hard work that I put in on this audition, because I always try to do my best. You know, and again, as an actor in like, you know, this level of my career, I might not have as much time as I would have liked to put towards that audition. I probably had to work, and then after work I was probably super exhausted, and maybe I didn't get right to work on the sides, or maybe I was kind of half-heartedly doing them because of how drained I was from like doing a job that you don't want to do, you know, like serving people their coffee or getting them their burritos and tacos, or, you know, and whatever it is. So yeah, no, yeah, cool.
Yeah, you're. It was in Jenna Fisher's book she wrote. I forgot the name of the acting book she wrote. And then someone else had told me this out here that I didn't realize, which you'll know way more than me. But they said casting directors have to get to know you. I'm like, what do you mean by that? They're like, you just don't get signed somewhere and you're just going to start booking. Now, does it happen? Of course, with some people, but like most people, like when you go to auditions and stuff, like casting directors get to know who you are. And Jenna Fisher, I know, she had been auditioning with this casting director for years, and the casting director really liked her, but there just wasn't a role for her yet. She just hadn't found the right role. So it's nothing against her acting. It's just like, we just haven't found the right. But as soon as the Office pilot came along, she's like, yes, called her in for it. And then obviously the rest is history. So
Yeah.
Those relationships, I never realized too just how many steps there were to this thing. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I came out to LA, it's like, you just come out, you just start making movies, man. Like, it's like, no, you got to, first of all, learn how to act. Second of all, get representation.
Yeah.
Then from the representation, you're going to start getting sent out, but you're probably not going to book much for a while because casting people don't know who you are. And, you know, it's just that, and I'll sum it all up. It just, I mean, and I know you're one of those people, you just got to love it, right? You just have to really love it.
Yeah, have to love it. Yeah, no, I've taken some time off, and which I guess, like I said, is important to do. I believe, and now I'm like really itching to like get back on the horse and, you know, start churning out some auditions. Like I am, like I said, I started, you know, submitting today, and yesterday I submitted. And I'm ready. I just, you know, I also like my hair has changed and I'm kind of, so have to update my headshots, but so I'm like, you know, not really like confidently submitting to these projects just because my look's a little changed, but you know, whatever. Again, I'm non-union, so it doesn't really like, it's not like that big of a deal. And I believe you should stay non-union for as long as you feel necessary. And a lot of us, we get ambitious and feel like, you know, it's time. The universe knows. But definitely try to stay on this level as long as possible and make as many mistakes down here where it doesn't really matter, where you can learn, and you can learn about your instrument. And I'm going to go back to taking the break that I took. That's one thing that I learned just being out here is like, I get exhausted. I get spread thin, I get dry, and like I have to push to like hit an emotional mark, and that doesn't look good on camera. So know your instrument, know when it's time to just like take breaks and do things that you know are going to refill your tanks. And that's massive. That's huge.
Self-care, man. Self-care. And before I transition to all that self-care and that type of thing, I got to give you a shout out. I'll never forget the moment at Playhouse West One Act Festival. Jesse Malone, which was a phenomenal production. Shout out to all of you involved in that, Andrew. Well, that moment where you made that appearance on stage, Mr. Wednesday, was it your name or something like that?
Yeah, no, yeah.
And I guess people would have to see it to know, but like, dude, I just remember like it was crazy because that's when we were both in advance, and like I had been with you in beginning and like seeing both of our journeys, and then like seeing you, first of all, like the impact, like first of all, just visually, I'm like, whoa, this guy. And then the actual scene that took place with that, I'm just like, dude, you freaking killed it, man.
Thanks,
you freaking killed it. I'm like, get that guy on a sitcom or something.
Yeah, no, that was
you found the thing. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, no, that was my heart's broken just because we were working on like a full length of that play and before the pandemic. And we were, pretty close to ready, and then the pandemic happened, shut everything down. And we've been like kind of working on it here and there during lockdown and the pandemic, and we've gotten really, really close to putting it up. But then like by the time we're ready, it's winter and another surge happens, a new variant, a new blah, blah, blah. And, and unfortunately, like we have to stay safe and it's like shut it down. So like my heart's been broken a few times, but yes, that role was sick. Super grateful for Andrew. I kind of came in last minute because they were like trying to play someone in this role. And I remember like them talking about like, yeah, like who's going to play Mr. Wednesday? And I'm like sitting there like, and then finally I got the nod. Shout out to Jay Red for it. It was her idea apparently. And, and I get the cool thing about it is I'm like backstage the whole time and I just come out the last second of that one act and I just get to steal the show.
You literally steal the show. Like
steal the show.
I laughed out loud when that, it was amazing.
Yeah, dude, that was super fun. I love making people laugh. So that was, very enjoyable for me as an artist. But yeah, dude, fucking shout out to you, man. We shared a block during the One Act Festival.
Just thinking that as we're talking,
and
we did.
You and Ford crushed it, dude. You guys, like, I was super sour that like we shared a block because I wanted to see that one act really bad. I mean, I would hear it and I would.
Same here. Like, I would hear yours, you and more.
Yeah, I was like. Be preparing for that last one act, which was like a doozy. And just like, I wanted to see you guys so bad. I had a few friends come and, obviously watch. I was like, yeah, so which one was your favorite? And like expecting them to be like, yeah, like yours, dude, totally. And they're like, man, that one with the Wild West one, like that one was my
Moonshine.
favorite. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, thanks, appreciate that. But I can't really blame them,
Dude, I was talking to Wolf on the podcast, and I think I said it during the podcast. I am so glad I did those one acts, especially not knowing what was to come with the pandemic. Because, man, like. And Wolf would always preach the feeling of the stage, and and when you do the scene showcases, they were great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But the one acts, man, when we had the tents back there, it's the blocks, and it's just like our block filled with people, and like and there's all these other blocks, and everyone's there, and like I'll never forget. Like you could feel the vibration from backstage, like because it was packed.
Yeah.
Wolf's getting the crowd pumped up, and I'm just like, oh. That's what he's talking about when it comes to like the stage and the energy. Nothing like it, man.
Oh man, yeah. Live theater,
once in a lifetime experience to like just be lucky to have that. Like it was great.
Yeah, live theater is like, people are always like, yo, so what do you like, theater or like blah blah blah? And like I like all of it because I'm an actor. I'm in a film town, so I obviously like I'm trying to dial in all my, abilities for film, which is like a whole learning curve and growing pains doing that. I feel like I'm in a pretty good place now, but man, live theater, dude, it's like crack. It's like heroin. I just like give it to me, baby. Dude, because like there is nothing like being in the moment and like going through, your reality and then you just hear like gasps or like laughter or like the audience reaction, and just like it's all in the moment. If you make a mistake, like you gotta like stick that. And yeah, no, dude, I'm super grateful for live theater, and I can't wait to get back on stage, dude.
Yeah. Well, when you guys are putting that up, I'll be there. Excuse me,
Hell
Jesse
yeah.
Malone.
Yeah.
Continued.
Yeah.
I wanted to transition here because obviously, are you still good on time?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, cool. Because I know you're one of those people, man, where we could go for 5 hours. So
yeah, for sure.
wanted to transition a little bit into fitness, if we will, because you're one of those guys. That's one thing at Playhouse, like, we talk acting stuff, and then all of a sudden you and I are talking about intermittent fasting. You taught me about taking gummies after you work out because of the sugar spike, or what was the reason for that again? Like your muscles filled with glucose, or
glycogen gets depleted during strenuous activity from your liver, so you're just kind of replacing it. And then by spiking your insulin, you get better nutrient absorption. So say you have a protein shake and you spike your insulin, like your body's going to absorb a bit more of that protein. So yeah, and it's just also gummies, also gummy bears and sour worms, they're good. I like them. But yeah, that's kind of the science behind it is, replenish your glycogen. You are more anabolic, so.
do you still do fasting? Do you still experiment with that?
So no, yes and no. I definitely am due for like a 3-day fast for sure, like a water fast and like broth, whatever kind of can keep me going. But I stopped intermittent fasting because what happens is your body is kind of in a fight or flight kind of mode when you're fasted, and you get a lot of adrenaline. Like your body's basically running on adrenaline. And like I drink coffee in the morning, so I'm intermittent fasting, so I'm not eating. I'm drinking coffee, which is also like taxing your adrenal glands. And so I found myself, my adrenal glands were like shot. They were toast from just living in LA, going to acting class multiple times a week. And that also is like inducing a serious like sympathetic nervous system reaction. Like your fight or flight is like kicked on when you're about to go up for like, your activity, like your exercise, like your heart's beating, you've got adrenaline going. And that happens throughout the day, just living in LA. Like you're driving down the street, someone cuts you off and you're like, ah, so like, so I found that like my adrenal glands were done. They were done. So I was having like really bad sympathetic nervous system. Like it was hard for me to turn that off. And that's like your fight or flight part. You have your automatic nervous system, like just like that, like, it's just like breathing and your heart beating, all the things that you don't really have to think about, and they just go. You want to be more in like that state, which is a very like relaxed state. Good. You are in your cave. There's no animals trying to kill you or whatever, back primitive days. But yeah, so the sympathetic nervous system was just running nonstop. And when you've lived here long enough and you're doing that, it gets taxed. And like I started feeling the effects of it pretty bad. Like I can't smoke weed anymore because I get like a gnarly anxiety from it. And I'm pretty sure that's because of like just how taxed my adrenal glands were. It's just like one more thing that my adrenal glands have to deal with, giving me like a gnarly sympathetic, which is fine. Like weed is like, you know, I was using weed to escape like in a lot of times in my life. And like, especially right now, I need to be here present in the moment, doing all of the things that I need to do, trying to accomplish like an impossible feat in multiple different facets. So don't really care about that. But it's just like kind of like what happened. And like the One Act Festival, so that was one of those situations where like I was giving myself anxiety, like thinking of the future and like how things were going to happen and like what was like blah, blah, blah. And I've been on stage a lot before that. Like I've done theater, like a lot of theater. And I ended up going to the hospital, man. Like I thought I was having a heart attack.
At the One Act Fest you did?
Like a week before, maybe 2 weeks before. And it's because of just like intermittent fasting for like a perfect storm. And I had a panic attack, and I'd never had a panic attack, and it felt a lot like what I would imagine a heart attack would feel like. And it was like right before I went to bed, I like laid down, and I'm like it's like 2 a.m, and I'm like on the verge of sleep, basically like about to be like sleeping. And it just felt like a ghost reached into my chest and like squeezed my heart really hard and then let go. And it woke me up, and I was like, oh my God, like what was that? Like, whoa. Like it was like, you know, and then like you get a lot of anxiety because you're like, am I gonna die? Like what was that? Your vision goes like, and it's like literally like vision was fading. And like I calm myself down, I drink some water, I take some CBD, and then I go like lay back down, and I'm on the verge of sleep again, and it happens again. And so I'm like, oh my God, like I can't go to sleep, I'm gonna die, and like you know, no one's gonna check on me, and I'm just gonna be like rotting in here. So like I like went outside, walked around my neighborhood in Van Nuys at like 2 a.m. and you know, and like my heart just was like fluttering and felt super weird. So I was like, I gotta go to the hospital. Like I'm not gonna like collapse here and like die on the sidewalk. Because that's where I was at. Like it was like I'd never like I didn't know what was happening. It was very weird. So then I went to the ER, drove myself to the ER, checked myself in, told them like what happened, and you know, I got an EKG. I got, you know, like they checked my blood pressure and put me up to the boop machine, and ran the EKG, which is basically checking like the electromagnetic field that is like the battery that like gets your heart going. And if they're like checking to see if there's something wrong with that battery, you know, the electromagnetic field that, you know, people call it your aura, or, you know, it's this field of energy that is us. And so they check that with the machine. They're like, all right, the results are, you know, being sent to the doctor. Just relax. Like we're watching your monitor at the nurse station. So, you know, you're in good hands. And so I'm laying there in this hospital in the ER in Sherman Oaks. And the doctor comes in. He's like, all right, so we got your EKG here. And like they did like they took blood work and everything. And like, EKG is totally normal, like no sign of a heart attack. You know, your blood pressure is fine. Like blood work was pretty normal. You have low potassium though. So they gave me like a horse pill of potassium to take. And I guess like if you have low potassium, that can actually cause heart arrhythmia, like irregular heartbeat and things like that. But I don't think, but it wasn't like the low potassium. I mean, that could have been a factor. But he's like, yeah, so like what's changed in your life? He's like, are you taking new medication, new supplements? Like has something happened? And I'm like, no, like everything's normal. I am an actor though, and I'm doing this one act festival, and I'm kind of, so he's like, oh, you're an actor. And I'm like, yeah, I'm an actor. He's like, no wonder. I'm going to prescribe you a Xanax, and like, just take the Xanax and like, we'll see what happens. And so like, I took the Xanax and like was fine. Like I felt great after, like totally chilled. And that's
like instantly?
Within like, once it like was bioavailable and like in my bloodstream, like pretty fast. And so I was like, that's when it kind of clicked, like, okay, this was an anxiety thing. And so I now, with the knowledge that I've accumulated to like present day, I think that definitely there are multiple factors, but I think intermittent fasting was a huge factor. And like drinking coffee, like a ton of coffee while fasting, was just taxing my adrenal glands. And when your adrenal glands are messed up, like it can cause like panic attacks, and just like your sympathetic nervous system is just firing at all times. So
it's funny you mentioned that, because you remind me, I actually quit coffee a month before the 1X, because I'm like, I gotta get off, because I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, I can't do moderation when it comes to like, especially caffeine. Like I would not have one glass in the morning. I was drinking a pot before I walked out the door. And, I drive around for work all day. Then I would go get an afternoon pick me up from Starbucks, $2, black coffee, nothing in it, just pure black coffee. And I realized quickly, like, this isn't good, because now I'm conditioning my body to depend on these stimulants. And dude, to this day, I've told people my caffeine withdrawals that first month right before the 1X, they were horrific. And it's a lot of kind of what you described. I actually had a couple moments where I thought I might need to go to the ER, because like you feel like you're going psychotic. Like you feel like you're going like it's not even like you're psychotic, it's just you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're just overwhelmed, and like you just start feeling like everything's coming down on you. And I realized, I'm like, no, it's this caffeine withdrawal. Like my body's used to feeding it this substance that I'm no longer giving it.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool, medicine, but when abused, it can become a problem. And I definitely, like you, was abusing it, was relying heavy on it for energy, and it doesn't actually create energy.
No.
It just tricks your body into thinking that it's not tired anymore. Yeah. So, and it causes like adrenaline and, things like this. And when you're in a fasted state, your body is creating adrenaline too, to like keep you going. And that's what helps also burn fat. And that's why coffee also helps burn fat, because you're boosting your adrenaline and certain metabolic things.
And people are like, oh, you don't drink coffee? How do you wake up in the morning? I'm like, I wake up. And there's some mornings where, it takes me like, a good 20, 25 minutes, get my warm water with the lemon, and, you get meditating, get that. But dude, within like 30, 35, I'm energized.
Yeah. I mean,
it's amazing natural energy from sleep and just eating healthy foods and working. I mean, dude, this, like, eat clean, get sleep, drink water. It really goes a long way. Like it takes you very far. Like the other stuff, the supplements and stuff, they're great, but that's your foundation. You got to have that foundation.
Have to. I mean, I still drink coffee. I just don't. I definitely am more, in moderation. I have 1 cup a day now. Today I had 2 cups, which it hadn't done that in a long time, and I made sure it was a small cup. But I like coffee in the morning because I like the taste of it. I like the smell of it. I like drinking a hot beverage. I mean, I could switch to something else, but I also find that I take collagen in my coffee in the morning, and it just mixes really well in the coffee, and I get an extra like 18 grams of protein, and it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
I don't even know I'm getting it. Like it's in my, I'm gonna drink this coffee anyways. So, you know, I'm putting this collagen in it, collagen powder, and it's putting 18 grams of protein in this beverage that I'm already going to be drinking. And so it's a quick, because like when you are working out, you know, you want to be hitting your macros, and protein is one of the most important ones to hit. And so an extra 18, 20 grams that you barely even notice is tremendous for your gains. So yeah, man, I like, and it's good for, you know, your skin, for your hair, your nails. Apparently not. I don't know, but you know, your body breaks it down into amino acids anyways, and then decides what to do with those amino acids, you know. So it's not like it's turning, like being broken down and then being put back into collagen. I'd like to think that it's like easier to go back into collagen, but that's not based in science. But they say, you know, it's protein though. I'm getting protein. It's not necessarily like I'm taking it because it's good for my skin and my hair and my nails. I'd like to think that that is an outcome, but I'm pretty sure it's been debunked. But it's definitely an extra 18 grams of protein. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I've definitely been, don't skip the protein. That's one thing I've noticed. When I keep my protein consistent, the gains stay consistent.
Yeah.
One quick, there's a couple more topics I wanted to touch on real quick here with you. But how many days a week you lifting now these days?
So I didn't lift for like 2 months during the holidays. Like I went to Mexico, you know, it was Christmas, it was Thanksgiving, blah blah blah. Then I got COVID, but that's, you know,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, but now that I'm back on like full blown like fitness and like gym regimen, I'm going 3 days. I'm doing like a block of 3 days, and I'm doing a program that's push pull legs. So I do legs, then I do, you know, push workouts and then pull workouts. And I'm going pretty heavy, like heavier than I usually have gone, just because like that's what the workout calls for. So I find myself pretty sore on that, you know, that 4th day. So that I will take a rest day, and then I'll go back in for the second round of push pull legs for that week. So I'm kind of doing, I guess, 5 days a week, but it's kind of like I'm doing it. Does, like, to me, it doesn't, like, it's just I would do 3 days rest day, 3 days rest day, and obviously, like, if something comes up, I might not be able to go to the gym that day, but I try my hardest to make sure I get in there and work my schedule around it.
Those rest days I never realized how important the rest days really are.
Extremely important. One of like the like one of my most jacked friends, like absolutely jacked, from like really good friend in high school. He went to the same college as me. Remember, he told me, he's like, look, Ryan, your rest days are more important than the days you're on at the gym. It's like, they are more important. And when he said that to me, and like it kind of like took my fitness to another level, because they are more important. You have to make sure you're taking care of yourself, recovering, getting your macros, getting like even more calories that day, and just like chilling and like not feeling bad about not going to the gym, because they're actually really important. Because like before that, I'd be like, oh man, like I want to go to the gym, but your body needs those rest days. It needs to recover. It needs to rebuild. And because you're breaking it down, and it's got to be rebuilt. So unless you're doing like enhancing drugs, chances are you're not recovering as fast. So
it's okay to take like a week off once in a while, right? Like just
yeah,
might actually be beneficial.
no, yeah, I remember we talked and like your break because you had the injury. Like I also like took like because gyms were closed because of COVID, and took a long time off. I was just doing home workouts and bike riding, and I noticed that it was really good, and like the gains come back really fast. The muscle memory, the recomposition happens really fast. Like the body is this crazy.
It's amazing.
So yeah, no, the week off is super important. The 2 weeks off, even though like almost 2 months I ended up taking off. I didn't want to take 2 months off, but it just happened, and like it's important. It's important. Like you like sometimes are lifting with injuries and you're working around injuries, and that time off, because like you are like going ham in the gym, like you might be a little injured after one day. You might have like pulled a muscle or did a little ligament strain, strained a ligament, and now you're working around these injuries. You're still going to the gym, you're still getting good gains, you're still progressing, but you still have like a little bit of pain, maybe in a shoulder or a part of your body that you're trying to work around. And those weeks off definitely allow your body to finally heal that stuff.
Yeah, no, and I actually experienced that firsthand. Obviously, my leg was extremely hurt, but some nagging injuries that I had that just never went away. Like just like you said, because I'm like, well, I wasn't going to take a month off at the gym. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. But I did notice like, those are gone now. My leg's still where it is, but it's like, as that's recovering, I'm like, but no, yeah, maybe all I needed was like some extended rest from that.
Yeah. So, I'm doing, before this workout, I was doing a upper body, lower body split, where you do upper body one day in like every muscle group in your upper body and lower body. And then, and it was a 6 days a week program, and by the end of that program, I was able to go 6 days a week with like good recovery, because it's all kind of spaced out and it's all volume based, because that's kind of where the science is at. Basically, like, yes, lifting super heavy is great and you can see a lot of gains, but like I will have like, if say you're lifting super heavy, like doing like 3 to 6 reps, and I'm doing maybe not as heavy, I'm still going close to muscle failure, but I'm not like taxing everything totally, like just trashing my muscles with super heavy weight. You have to take a rest day, because you're probably pretty messed up that next day or for a couple of days after. I'm not, and I'm going those other days. So at the end of the year, if you're looking on like a spreadsheet, how many times I went to the gym and how many minutes my muscles were under strenuous loads opposed to yours, like I'm way up here. I pushed way more weight than you did. So volume workouts while mixing like in, the weight, but not doing too heavy, is where the science is kind of at right now for hypertrophy. I can never say that word. Yeah. Hypertrophy.
I think Tim Ferriss one time, like I haven't read his book, I don't know if I don't want to misquote it, the whatever body book he wrote. I watched the thing where like he went to the gym. It was like something like once a week or twice a week for like 20 minutes. That's it. And he just did like these it was hard lifts. Yeah. Not like maxing out, but like kind of what you just described, like just really solid lifts and stuff. And like he was jacked.
No, there's science behind that too, because you actually are creating a very positive response with your testosterone doing that. Like when you're in the gym like 2 hours, like your body starts to go kind of catabolic, and like test levels can drop, and you need testosterone to build muscle. That's why like men are much bigger than women, because we have way more testosterone, and just because of that fact alone, we can have bigger muscles. And now that like I know more about anabolics and all of these things, just because like I want to research everything that has to do with bodybuilding and exercise science. Everyone on Instagram, I would say probably 98% of these fitness models and people that you're looking at on IG are on drugs. They're all on drugs, especially the women, because women cannot get like that without androgynous hormones, like, test or taking probably Anavar is what they're taking. It's a very female safe steroid. It doesn't, like, in lower doses you can get good results without getting the deepening of the voice and some negative side effects, some unwanted sides from taking an anabolic when you shouldn't have those levels of testosterone in your body because you're a female. But yeah, so everyone's on steroids. That's what I figured out.
For the gram. Well, it's funny because you mentioned two things now that were the last two things I wanted to cover with you for a little bit. Because you and I always talk about like taking social media breaks, like how it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And then also you did recently have your own COVID experience, and I don't know which one we want to go with that. Maybe the COVID experience.
Yeah.
So you had it. What was it like?
I got COVID.
And I'm happy you're okay. I'm really happy.
Yeah, okay. I'm good, and I'm super grateful. I'm okay too. It's it seems to you're like one. Yes, the comorbidities play in a huge factor, and the severity of your illness, but there's people that are perfectly healthy that get severely ill and wind up in the ER, in the hospital, in a COVID ward. So, I am grateful that didn't happen. And luckily I caught, Omicron. Like, it was very recent. It was in, December, mid-December when I got it. And it was definitely Omicron because of the symptoms, because of where I felt it in my body, in the upper respiratory system, the sore throat, the sinus stuff, all indicative of it being the Omicron strain. Lungs never felt tight, never felt like I, couldn't breathe or had low oxygen, which is definitely another indication of it being Omicron and not the Delta strain. So, and it seems to, with the data we have, be less severe because it's not multiplying in the lung tissue. It's much more efficient in the upper respiratory system. So, and that's one reason why it's also more contagious, because it's right there in your throat, breathing it out. But I've been sicker in my life, I guess. Like, food poisoning has like messed me up, and I'm pretty sure I got COVID at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was pretty, like, whatever I had like early on before lockdowns was rough. So yeah, I mean, I've been sicker. It wasn't fun. Like, I wouldn't wish like anyone catches COVID, just because like I had, I had body aches, chills, low grade fever. I broke the fever. I didn't want to take any Tylenol because I wanted to break the fever naturally. So I kind of knew when my body, like where I was at with the virus. When you're taking Tylenol, it's going to reduce it, and you're not going to break it naturally. And that fever is like your body's way of burning out the virus. So you almost want the fever. I was just monitoring it. And yeah, it felt like I was kind of like hit by a truck, man. Like, body hurt really bad, but not like unbearable. Like, when I took a Tylenol, it felt like I felt way better. And yeah, it was about probably a 72-hour ordeal. First day was pretty rough, gnarly headache, chills, body aches, low grade fever. Second day, I broke the fever. but still had body aches and a bit chilly. And then, third day was mostly just like the achy, like sore joints, achy feeling. And then the fourth day I lost my smell. Could still taste, but not very well. Like everything was kind of bland. Everything, I could tell, salty, sweet, spicy, savory, sour kind of stuff, but it wasn't very vibrant. It was very muted flavors. And losing my smell, that was wild. That was very weird. I gotta say, extremely weird, because you just can't smell anything. And like I'm taking like Tiger Balm, which has got a lot of like mint in it, and it's like it burns your nose. It's very like minty, and like I'm like sticking my nose in it and like inhaling through my nose and nothing, and like no no burn, nothing. And it was very weird. And I remember when I started smelling again, man, that was really good. It was like 2 days after, so I didn't lose it for that long. I'm fully recovered. I don't imagine that I'll have any long COVID symptoms. Brain fog was definitely a symptom, though. Like I felt pretty stupid. Maybe like a little lingering, like word recall isn't as great as it should be. I know during this podcast, there's a couple times I've like, what's that word? Trying in the moment, trying to dump a sweet word out and lost it. But everyone's gonna get COVID. This strain of coronavirus is wildly infectious. They're saying it's like measles, which is gnarly. There's a story of like this like professional, like decades ago, a baseball game, a kid had measles and like sang the national anthem, and a bunch of like children watching the game in the nosebleeds, like super far away, caught measles because like the wind like perfectly like brought it up to like that section.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Insanely infectious, and they're saying it's like that. So Jesus. Yeah. Everyone, and we're seeing it. I mean, just look at the numbers.
Yeah, I guess you're right on that. Yeah.
Like we broke 1 million cases in a day. So like and it's a very good thing, actually. I mean, it's not good that people are going to get coronavirus, and some people might not make it. But RIP. But it's a good thing because it's so infectious. It's going to move through the population, and we are going to reach herd immunity very fast. And I got to say, everyone who caught it with me was all, vaccinated. So it doesn't care about your vaccine status. Like a booster might help. I don't know. But like with that being said, everyone's going to catch it, and everyone's going to have natural immunity, and it's going to make its way through the population. It's hopefully going to burn itself out.
And you're the perfect guy to ask this to, when they talk about herd immunity and whatnot. I mean, is that pretty much the concept that once everyone has been exposed to it or had it, that this thing can no longer do anything unless it turns into a different strain? Or would it be like once you've hit herd immunity, no, like it's good no matter what, morphs into?
This strain has got a ton of mutations, and
mutation, that was the word I was thinking.
Yeah, I can't imagine like another strain that's like mutated in a way that's like so different from this one to where like our body can't recognize it. But it seems that because it's happening so fast, and we find that like our antibodies are at their highest point 6 months after infection, that it will probably spread through the population within 6 months, fully through the population or majority. So like while everyone has these antibodies and has had this infection, it just like can't reinfect, hopefully, you know, in theory, and it just kind of goes away. In theory, again. So, but yeah, it's seems like it's the end of the pandemic, and you know, historically viruses tend to mutate and become less lethal, and you know, and it might just live in our population and as an endemic virus, and just, you know, have little outbreaks here and there. But by then it'll be much more manageable through therapeutics and different ways of, you know, combating the infection. Like we're pretty good now at, you know, with like the monoclonal antibodies and the vaccine and like all the stuff we have at our disposal to keep people off ventilators and, you know, alive. And again, like we touched on this multiple times in this podcast and in the beginning, is the number one thing is to be healthy, is to eat good food, get your micro and macronutrients, and drink water and get sunlight, and don't be stressed, like, you know, combat the stress and breathe, you know, go on walks, breathe air, and, you know, that is always going to be the number one way to stay out of the hospital. Period. Stay with anything, cancer, you know, any adverse health, you know, thing is just by eating good food, which is honestly medicine, and, you know, relieving stress and drinking water.
Yeah, and you know, and there's certain vitamins I take now that I wasn't taking before all this. I'm like, man, I should have been taking these years ago. Like I should have been taking vitamin D like years ago. Why wasn't I? Like zinc and, you know, quercetin and things like that. It's like, man, these are just good to have in the wheelhouse anyway.
Period. Yeah.
Because that's the thing too, is there's other stuff out there too. There's other things. I mean, my leg injury taught me that. And again, I have full respect for COVID, and, you know, it's the seriousness of it, but it's like my leg injury reminded me like, there's more than one way you can get messed up. It was like, so it gave me that awareness of like, all right, you got to really, this is it, man. This body is the only one you get. Like, take care of it.
Take care of it.
Take care of it and be cautious, make smart decisions. And sometimes, yes, accidents happen, but do as much as you can to put yourself in the best position for, God forbid, something does happen, your body's able to handle it, hopefully in a better way.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, you look like you've done pretty well, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Good, man. Chest
honestly,
is still there.
Huh?
Your chest is still there. I can
actually wore this T-shirt on purpose because I knew you'd be on the podcast. But no, I mean, I can't stress enough. I told you this, you know, before, you know, we were on the phone the other day, going back to that weight room. And I've just always been a gym rat in that sense. Like once I was exposed to the weight room and everything. And I mean, dude, there's nothing like, and I know, you know, the feeling.
Oh yeah.
Having a good energized weight workout. And I love wrapping it up. I do cardio for bikes, my cardio now. So doing bike at the end, you just feel on cloud nine. You just feel super energized, super good. Your blood's pumping, your brain's like on a new level. I love it.
Yeah.
But I have to understand too, like sometimes you can't go that hard every day. Like, you know, sometimes you got to throw a rest day, and I have been doing that a lot more. Like
I've definitely been a bit better with my recoveries, you know, lacrosse ball and foam rolling and things like that, just kind of, you know, breaking out the lactic acid. And to touch on so you ride the bike at the end of your workout.
Mm-hmm.
I would just suggest you keep it very low intensity.
Why is that?
Because you can lose gains.
You telling me cardio can kill your gains at the
Yeah.
end?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, no, it's actually good. So you'll usually like see like the most jack guy at the gym doing, cardio after he worked out,
Mhm.
but he's always walking on the treadmill
Yeah, or Stairmaster.
or doing like a stairmaster, but not very like intense. So doing actually sustained low intensity cardio is fantastic, but that's just it. Low intensity and like a good sustained period of time is the type of cardio you should be doing post workout, because you can lower your test level. And again, testosterone, like, you want to keep your natural levels as high as possible, because that's what's going to keep you anabolic and building muscle, and your recovery is better and everything's like that. So and as you get older, you definitely want to be taking care of those hormones. So that's
No, thank you for that. That's something I
yeah, no,
I
ride the
consider.
bike, but just like just do like a little cruisy cruise.
Don't go like crazy. Now,
No,
Dave,
no.
if you go into the gym specifically doing cardio, then that's a different story, right? Like if I'm going like, hey, I'm just going to do cardio today.
Yeah. I mean, you can do like a morning session of cardio, and like as long as like I'm pretty sure there's like multiple hours between.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Intense training is good, and I do know that high intensity interval training is good after a workout, but that's because it's super high intensity and short, and it won't actually really mess with your your hormones and turn you catabolic. So if you're hitting the bike, either do it slow and for a good amount of time, like 15-20 minutes, maybe even 30, or do like the 30-second, like just all out on the bike, and then like a 15-second just like very like slow chill, and then another like 40 seconds of like going all the hit that you can do on a bike.
Wow, thank you for that. That's actually pretty relevant. And I actually have a bike here too, so it might make more sense for me to do that bike prior to going to the gym even.
Yeah, like in the morning, like have your lemon water,
Yeah.
and, like do a nice little bike ride, and then just crush your workout.
Damn, thank you for that. See, look, I've learned so much during this conversation. And one other quick thing as we're getting to the end here, because I know we'll keep going. What do you think about social media these days? It's just gotten way worse, hasn't it? I mean, it's just like because
So it can be positive.
yeah.
It definitely can. It just depends on like how you're using it, and how the algorithm and how it's picking up on your habits on the app, because it's designed to keep you on the app.
100%.
And so I've been like super into cryptocurrency and like figuring out how to like not work anymore. So like I'm trying to like not work anymore, and I think that crypto is going to definitely help me do that. And so because of like my infatuation with investing in crypto, like Instagram now shows me like all these new NFT projects and like different cryptos, and like information like that, like a lot of videos on that. And but still it's a waste of time. Like I can find all these things out without staring and getting locked in on my phone and in my screen. One of my goals is to like, because like as my Instagram's like I've shut it down, wiped it, and I've just been like I'm still like picky, like because like it's addicting. Like I do like to check in and watch stories to see what my friends are doing. Definitely like probably stop doing that again for like another solid 2 months, like fully off of it. But one of my to-do lists is to like get more content for when I do come back on Instagram and like do that project that I am planning on doing, and believe that it's something that I will find fun for me, because like at the end of the day, it's like do what you want to do, period, with everything. So it's gonna be like a fun little thing for me, and you know, but yeah, like I mean, it's a tool that can progress you, or it can, you know, set you back.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's a tool, like you said, like, you know, like for this podcast, we're going to post, hey, Ryan was on the podcast, and then the podcast is going to come out. Then we're going to do a little video clip. But other than that, man, I've been posting and ghosting. Like just think Joe Rogan came up with that, post and ghost. Like, you know, just do what you got to do on there, then get the hell off.
That's what that's
because it
like,
sucks you the hell in if you stay on. Like,
yeah, when I get back on there and I start posting again, it's gonna be post and ghost. I like that.
Yeah.
Dude, one thing that I do want to say is like I've like, you know, back on like health and fitness. So like I started taking this supplement called turkesterone. And like I'm noticing like now that I've only been like back on like, you know, weight training for 2.5 weeks. I'm like, yeah, basically like 2.5 weeks, maybe a little less. And I'm like already noticing some like some definitely positive outcomes.
Is this just a basic supplement you can order off Amazon?
No, it's not, no.
What is it?
You might be able to get it off Amazon. I get it off of this website, Gorilla Mind. It's like
by Derek from More Plates, More Dates.
Plates, More Dates. Yeah, he's sick. I mean, he's very knowledgeable.
He knows his shit for sure.
He knows his stuff. So it's I've definitely been, you know, during the pandemic watching his videos, and he, you know, they like started talking about this plant hormone, like this plant steroid called turkesterone and ecdie steroids, that like is supposed to be like a low dose of Dianabol, like a steroid. Like it's like compare like a Russian study, like a Soviet study, found it, like did, you know, testing and found that it was like very comparable to Dianabol, and it had a lot of positive you know, benefits without negative side effects. So you know, for me it's like I want, like, steroids are like, one, you look like pretty gross when you like are just like running gear, and like, you know, it's bad for like your hair, your liver, your organs, all these things. So but definitely wanted to find a natural way to get an edge in at the gym. And I think this is like, you know, through anecdotal like experience, people talking about it and doing it and like reporting back that like it does work, dude. And I'm like
strength wise, aesthetically, like everything.
Yeah, everything. And it's only been like, I mean, I had started taking it like mid-December, like when I first went to the gym, but then I got COVID. But while I was, you know, dealing with coronavirus, I was still obviously taking all my supplements, and I was taking like one of the pills of turkesterone just to like keep the bio levels in my body like there, so it's not like I'm just like dropping off and then coming back on. It's kind of like going like this and then maintaining, and then when I started working out again, I could get back up to where I wanted to be. So still taking it, and so it's been like maybe 4 weeks of like taking it, but definitely two and a half of like a higher dose. And yeah, no, recovery is way better. Like my shoulders, like, which typically can like stay sore for like a couple of days, or like I'm ready to go almost the next day.
Wow.
Another shoulder session. And no, yeah, I think it's sick.
I'm gonna have to look into that one. It's all natural, right? It's
natural, yeah, and it doesn't mess with your hormones. It doesn't mess with your hair. It doesn't mess with, like, the only side effect that has really been reported is upset stomach, and I haven't noticed that at all. It's kind of expensive. like actually pretty expensive, but I mean, I'm gonna run it for probably 8 weeks, and because like some people who have taken it said like after 8 weeks, you know, it's kind of diminishing returns at that point. Like you don't really get any of the effects anymore. So I'm gonna definitely run it for 8 weeks and see what happens. But I'm a hard gainer, man, and like a lot of people on YouTube and fitness forums have said the same thing, and they were able to put on like almost like they gained like 5 pounds.
Wow.
And it's up in the air whether or not that's 5 pounds of lean tissue. It could be like some water weight and some fat and things like that. But even to like half of that, 2.5 pounds, which is more realistic, is a lot in 8 weeks. Like especially as like an advanced, like someone who's been lifting for a while and like doesn't have newbie gains anymore. So we're gonna see, man.
Yeah, well, maybe in part 2, whenever we do this again, you'll have an update.
Yeah, no, I'll have an update. Maybe I'll just like keep running it. I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely, you know, try it.
Okay.
Try it.
And you can get that from Gorilla Mind.
Yeah, I would honestly especially try it in your position. The reason why I definitely wanted to take it is because of how long it's like I took basically 2 months off, and I wanted some help with the recovery. I wanted to recover faster. I didn't want to like have like start this like, you know, more intense workouts and like have to take multiple days off. I wanted to be able to get back in and get back to like where I was faster and like pushing like heavy weight. And it's definitely seems to be like doing exactly that.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, I love having these talks with you because you've hit me to a lot of different things. I think I already told you what I do for pre-workout. I've said it on the podcast before. I think his name's Omari Surf or something like that on Instagram. He has a lot of good stuff, but because I used to take the pre-workouts, which of course have caffeine and a bunch of other crap in it you don't need. You want to talk about having an anxiety attack? Take too much pre-workout. I've had a couple times where I had to leave. Like I took way too much. And your body gets used to it and blah, blah, blah. But he had an awesome video where he broke down the main components you need, and at least for what I use: creatine, citrulline malate, beta-alanine. Those 3 things. That's what I use before every workout. No caffeine whatsoever, and I swear, especially because I'm not used to caffeine anymore, I get great pumps just from taking the actual ingredients.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is, and I'm, again, a lot of podcasts. I listen to all types of different stuff, but I have to shout out the Mark Bell's Power Project. Those guys talk about gains all the time. Like that's what they do. And it's fascinating because they get scientific with it and everything. And like they're talking about, you know, carnivore diet and then carbs, but carbs may not be the enemy, like using carbs. Because I find like, shoot, man, as soon as I started incorporating sweet potatoes as my carbs, I've had, I don't know how many just explosive workouts from introducing that. It is amazing. Like when you use it correctly, like not all carbs are bad. And carbs are, I remember The Rock did a video one time. He's like, no, carbs are your friend. I mean, that guy's super freaking jacked.
Yeah.
Like you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater with everything.
Everything in moderation. Like too many carbs, yes, but like you should have some carbs in your meal. Right now, like I've cut out like a lot of the carbs that I take during in my meals. Like I have carbs in the morning and try to get some carbs before my workout, but in the evening I'll not do like the white rice that I would typically be doing. Just now like a lean protein and steamed vegetables or like some avocado.
So you cut carbs at night?
Yeah, but I mean I eat like I'd snack on like chips and certain things usually at night because I'm watching like a movie. So it's all about like removing it one place and then finding it in another place, you know? So I try to like, you know, and when I do reintroduce like rice to my meals or a carb, I'll definitely be like actually like taking, because like before I would just like pile on some rice and like, cause it's so good. Now I'll just do like maybe like half of what I would usually do, like a half portion. Probably like I would say it's probably a cup of cooked rice.
One last question with the fitness is or nutrition. Is there any value in cheat meals?
Yeah.
You know, when I say cheat meal, not a cheat day where you're going to eat that all day, but like once a week, maybe twice a week, having that piece of pie or having that
Even
pizza.
like a cheat day is good, yeah, because like your body, it's for your metabolism. Like your metabolism actually ends up slowing down because it doesn't really have to work so hard because of like your, the diet that you're on. And by introducing like all these calories and all these things, it's like, oh my God, like, whoa, there's all this stuff I got to break down. So it kind of like, it helps with your metabolism. It helps also with your mentality. A lot of times when you're doing a diet, you get burnt out. You get tired of the diet. So you end up not following the diet after a while. But, as you know, from exercising as long as you have, it takes 3 months. It takes about 12 weeks before you notice anything in the gym. So and that same is with dieting. Like you've got to stick to it for at least 12 weeks. And so whatever you can do to keep the sustainability of that diet is super important. So if it is a cheat day, yeah, do the cheat day. Cheat, but just like don't go super crazy, but have some pizza, have, a piece of pie, have some cookies.
You got to enjoy life too, you got to have it. And look, I enjoy eating just super healthy all the time. I enjoy that, but it's like, I'm finding, especially after my leg gave me a lot of clarity of like, all right, like you got to, enjoy this existence once in a while. Like have it. You don't have to, here's the thing too. You don't have to eat the whole thing.
No.
You can get satisfaction if someone has a piece of pie or a cake. I go, hey, let me have a bite of that. And I can take a bite of it. Like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. But I don't need to eat the whole thing.
No, you don't. You don't. Yeah, dude. And just to touch on like the pre-workout you're doing, that's great. That's pretty much the exact pre-workout that I do. It's something that boosts your NO, your nitrous in your blood, the nitrogen booster, which allows for pump and better nutrient delivery, better blood flow, because you got to have the blood where you're working it. So definitely mine is caffeine free and creatine free.
Creatine free.
Yeah. Again, like going back to like being hair safe, creatine has potential for causing hair loss. So I'm like, I'm like a freak about like everything, like skin, my hair, because like I'm an actor.
You're an actor. I mean, it is your look. Your look is your look, right?
I have a livelihood, so I'm trying to like have longevity here. And so that's like kind of like, so like a lot of the moves I make will like always keep that in mind, especially with like my nutrition, food and diet, incorporating a lot of things that are going to be very good for skin and hair, like vitamin C from, not like the synthetic ascorbic acid, but from like a real source of vitamin C, like tart cherry or something like that is super important.
Yeah.
So yeah, sick, dude.
Dude, this is honestly like, I didn't want to have expectations coming to this conversation, but you blew them away anyway. It was so many topics covered, which is amazing. Wow. And there's so many more we didn't cover that we'll have to save for part 2.
For sure,
so,
dude.
But dude, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for being a great friend out here in Los Angeles, man. And I remember when you first found out about my accident, you called me instantly, and I really appreciate that, man. I really appreciate our relationship to have these conversations and inspire each other. And before I give you the last word, like I always do, if people were to follow you on a social media platform, is it possible for them to do that? Is there one they can follow you on?
Yeah, my Instagram's still active. There's just not much to see there, but there will be. when I get back on there. I promise you. Probably in a couple of months. So Ryan is very nice on Instagram. You can follow me there. And yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, I'm on, like, I have a Facebook, but I'm never on it. I will probably make a TikTok too when I get back on Instagram and, put content on both of them, just because, again, it's like a tool. And unfortunately, how, like, as much as like I actually, think it can be a black hole, we kind of just have to do it, dude. It's like a necessary evil, I guess. And I'm done fighting it. I'm like,
just living with it.
I'm just gonna have to live with it. And if you can't beat them, join them. So it looks like I'll be joining in on all of those TikTok, little dealy dads, little trends, or whatever they call them. The kids are calling them nowadays. So
yeah, it's I mean, I feel, look, I can't, I talk shit about social media, but it's like, I still use it. It's done me a lot of good in terms of connections, and doing this podcast. I'm doing it all through Instagram, like, because that's where everyone's at. Like,
yeah,
everyone's on there. Like, I'm really, what's really shifted my mind kind of with it. Like, all right, the feed and shit, don't care. And I don't mean to offend anyone I follow. I want to like all your posts, but I can't do it for my mental. I just can't look at everyone's stuff.
Yeah.
That being said, I can't expect you to like mine either. So, but it's like, I have found it interesting just to use it as a pure connecting tool, like in the messages and staying connected with people. So it does have its place. It is a very good networking tool to have.
No, yeah. And, that, just like real quickly, that reminded me, I went through like a pretty bad injury, like just chronic pain. Like I was in pain all the time, to the point where I was like, wow, how am I going to ever be an actor if like I'm like just constantly in this much pain? And Instagram helped me with that, because I was like searching different things and looking at, physiotherapists that were on Instagram's videos. Like it started showing me more videos for physical therapists and like ways to like relieve pain and movement patterns. And so like I went down the rabbit hole that is like chronic pain and like a nagging injury, and Instagram gave me a lot of very, very useful information and knowledge on how to combat an injury, and like, and potentially what was causing the pain. And like, so it definitely was very positive in that sense, that like I learned a lot on Instagram about how the body is supposed to move, how pain is created, and just things like that. And if there's like one really good account that helped me, it would be an account called Move You, which are like I might have told you about it. Usually when someone like talks to me and like I end up finding out that they have like an injury or like back pain or something, or knee pain, well, I'm like, okay, well, like, you should follow Move You and like kind of watch those videos, because it's like our bodies are machines, and they're supposed to be like, you were checking your posture a lot. Like I noticed you checking your posture during this podcast, and good posture is super important, because bad movement patterns and bad posture leads to pain, leads to chronic pain. So, and especially when you start working out, like form and like having good posture throughout all of these movements that you're doing with heavy weight is so, so important. And that's what caused, I'm pretty sure, my chronic pain, along with stress and things. We'll save that for the next one. But like when I lived in China, I was under a lot of stress, and there's a lot of inflammatory causing foods that I was consuming on a day-to-day that created this perfect storm of just like chronic pain. And
I forgot you lived in China. That's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, we'll save that for part 2. But yeah, China was wild, man. it broke me. It definitely, like, it built me up and it broke me down.
Where were you at? Hong Kong, or where were you at?
I went to Hong Kong multiple times. Hong Kong is amazing city. I lived in Shanghai.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't there like 30 million people? Isn't it like insane
Yeah.
city sizes? That's one thing I didn't realize about over there, like Shanghai and Hong Kong. Like they make New York City look like nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
we got like 20, 30 million people here. Like that's insane.
22 million skyscrapers in Shanghai
Holy
or something like that. Yeah, there's
Jesus.
Yeah, I think there's only like half of that in New York. Dude, wild, wild, wild experience for sure.
Just one last. What age were you when you lived there?
I moved out there when I was 25.
And you were there for how long?
No, 20. God, dude, it's all like a blur. I think I was out there when I was 26. I was out there for 2.5 years.
Wow. Dang, yeah, we're gonna have to dive into that next time because that's a whole other worldly perspective, I'm sure, that you have.
Yeah, dude.
And to come to Los Angeles too, especially after that, like
I feel like China just prepared me to deal with like LA and but yeah. So yeah, no, Instagram's positive, helped me with chronic pain, movie is good. China was crazy. And we'll talk about it next one.
We'll talk about the next one.
Looking forward to it, man. Like I totally enjoy our conversations. We have very similar interests and a lot of information both of us bring to the table, and each other. So
yeah, and I was saying to someone, like, this podcast, man, honestly, I'm just getting so much out of it because these are conversations I'd have on the phone most of the time, but it's like I'm learning. It's like reading books on steroids almost, just having these long form conversations with people such as yourself, intelligent, artistic, creative, outside the box thinking people. And it's just like, dude, it's bleeding into my life in a good way. Cause like, we'll talk about things. Cause even the shit you said, like, hey man, you may not want to do like as much cardio at the end or whatever. Like, dude, that could be a huge life change for me. Cause I do that all the time. It's like, I'm getting to that point. Like I talked about this on the last podcast, knowledge without application is useless. And like, I love reading books and I love having conversations, but if you're not going to apply this stuff, what's the point? You're just talking theory all the time. Like
it's useless.
It's useless.
You're
so like when you like
useless info.
So when you tell me, like, and you're someone, like, especially when it comes to the science of certain things, it's like when you tell me, like, oh yeah, this, I know you read your stuff, like you read research and you have experimented on yourself. So yeah, man, this has been a treat, and I'll keep talking. So I was gonna say, I always leave the guests with the last word. It can be as deep or as shallow as you want. It can be a philosophy, an experience, a movie, a book. It can be absolutely anything that you want to leave us with.
Oh man. Okay. Oh goodness. I guess from like the conversation that we had today is take care of yourself. Understand that negative thing or positive things that you're doing to yourself can become negative. Without moderation and without proper application, and just relieve stress. Stress is like the #1 killer. Stress sucks, so figure out ways that you can relieve that stress, because you won't get the longevity that you need to pursue your dreams or whatever it is that you're doing if you're constantly stressed out. So
awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for the good vibes, the info. Stick around for a sec after I stop the recording.
That's sick, yeah.
But Ryan Larsen, thank you, man. This has been a treat.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks everyone that watches. Sam, you're doing some sick work with these podcasts. I enjoy watching them, and I'm super grateful to be on here.
Awesome. Thank you, man. We'll do it again.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Peace.